Hey everyone, Professor Long here, going to go over the muscles of the arm with you. I'm going to be manipulating the camera so that we can focus on specific muscles. I'm going to try to show it to you from a larger view and a smaller view, or up close and zoomed out. So I'm going to move up here to the shoulder area. The bones buried underneath here would be the scapula. What you see in this video right here is the scapula would be outlined right underneath all of these muscles. This is the acromion process right here and the spine of the scapula. The muscle that sits superior to the scapula is called the supraspinatus. The other one that sits inferior to the spine of the scapula is called the infraspinatus. So supraspinatus, infraspinatus. This muscle here is called the teres minor. There is a teres major buried in here, but don't worry about it. And then out here we see the deltoid muscle, which makes the cap or the ball of your shoulder. Now, I'm going to rotate the model underneath the scapula, which would lie flat against your back. This muscle right here is called the subscapularis muscle. You see some yellow nerves and a red artery running through here. This is your clavicle. And right underneath here is the coracoid process, the muscle that runs from the coracoid process all along the inside of your arm, near the axillary region. This muscle is called the coracobrachialis. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and then zoom in. You can see the coracobrachialis here. Now this muscle sitting right here is the biceps brachii. If I were to remove the deltoid, it actually has two heads, hence the name the biceps. If I rotate the model over to the side, I can see the biceps brachii here. This would be the brachialis muscle right underneath it. And on the back of the arm, all three of these make up the triceps brachii. It's a three-headed muscle, hence the name triceps. If I zoom out, you can see that this is on the back of your arm. It extends your elbow. Now, if I look from this view, we see the outside of the hand here. So this is your wrist, the carpal region. And if I were to lift the hand up this way, I would be extending and hyperextending the wrist. So all of these are going to be some extensor muscles down here. If I look from this angle, the brachialis muscle comes down and runs into this muscle here that runs along to the wrist, the radius side of the wrist, called the brachioradialis. It starts in the brachial region, ends on the radius, so it's called the brachioradialis. Next to that muscle, this one, running right next to it, is going to extend your wrist, hence the name extensor carpi. And since it's on the thumb side, it's called the extensor carpi radialis. Remember, the radius is on the thumb side. Now, this is the extensor carpi radialis longus. This next muscle would be the brevis, which is not on our list, so we're not going to stress it, but it's there. This is the extensor digitorum. It comes down and extends your digits with these tendons. So this muscle is the extensor digitorum, and it runs right underneath this band of connective tissue, as do all these extensor muscles. That's called the extensor retinaculum. Next to the extensor digitorum is a muscle that extends the wrist on the ulnar side, the extensor carpi ulnaris longus, and again, this would be the brevis, but the brevis is not on our list. So, really it goes brachioradialis, extensor carpi radialis, extensor digitorum, extensor carpi ulnaris, in that order. Now, if I were to flip over the wrist and look at the inside where I would flex the wrist, then what I see is a series of flexor muscles here. This muscle is going to flex the wrist on the radius side, on the thumb side. So it's called the flexor carpi radialis, or flexor carpi radialis longus. This muscle would be called the palmaris longus. It runs all the way down, and you can see that the tendon is cut here. It would go to the palm of the hand, but they cut it and remove some of it. But this is the palmaris longus. And then next to that is the flexor carpi ulnaris on the pinky side of the wrist. So, flexor carpi radialis, palmaris longus, flexor carpi ulnaris. And then finally, oh, by the way, this piece of connective tissue here would be called the flexor retinaculum. Well, that's where the palmaris longus runs over, but it retains most of your flexor tendons, hence the name flexor retinaculum. Finally, there's a couple of muscles right here at the fold of your elbow. One of them comes across here. It pulls your arm into pronation. That's called the pronator teres. And then buried underneath the brachioradialis, if I were to remove it, there's a nerve here. Sorry, move things around. There's a nerve here This is part of your pronator teres coming across, and then this is the supinator muscle. You have to remove the brachioradialis in order to see the supinator muscle. It pulls your hand into supination, and the pronator teres pulls your hand into pronation. They pull in either direction here. Probably not the best video, but anyway, there it is, folks. Hope that was helpful.